Are we good?
We're live.
I'll call this meeting to order, and first order of business is, if the members of the public, I know nobody signed up to speak, but if you introduce yourself.
Peter Shea, Alamance County Democratic Party, and no comments for this meeting.
Trish Talker from the Saxon area is here to learn.
Good.
Gary Vines, Burlington, and also here to learn and to see what's going on.
Okay,
Thank you.
you picked a good meeting, because we're here to learn this one too. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from 3/11.
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The main order of business today, I think, is our learning about the new voting upgrade, and we're going to have virtual demonstrations to the voting system, and then we will make a resolution to purchase that upgrade. Correct?
And if there's any questions, Judson or myself are here to answer any questions you might have.
So we ready to go forward with it?
We're ready.
All right. We'll do the heart demonstration first. It's a little bit shorter, so we're going to go ahead and start that up.
We are required to
So,
show.
these are
So I was just gonna say, we are required to show you the one that, both of them are approved by the State Board of Elections. So we have to show you one that, we currently have, and then another one that has been approved by the State Board. An alternate
I
system.
have a question.
Yes, sir.
Will these new machines be for the regular election and also for early voting, or just for early voting, or?
Okay, actually, it's just the hardware that we're upgrading. So we'll still have the same machines.
Mhm.
There is an additional purchase for early voting. They will have, instead of the check-in assistant writing the precinct number on the little baby, what we call the baby ballots,
Mhm.
that's inserted into the express vote, and then the poll worker has to push, whichever precinct is written on there. The printer will now print out the precinct, and then when it's inserted into the express vote, the precinct automatically populates. There will be no error by a precinct worker for the wrong precinct.
Okay.
Hence what happened,
So we
past
will
election.
avoid last time staff.
We're intending
That's
to take
correct.
that responsibility out of the hands of the poll
Right.
workers. And
Where
make
that caused the delay in reporting, because we had to wait for the state board to correct that. That will not happen with this upgrade.
Okay.
Okay?
I also kind of want to mention that they will cover in these videos certain devices that we aren't necessarily intending to purchase. It is an option, but if you have any questions afterwards, like she was saying, you can ask and we'll tell you which version would be correspond with which improvement, basically.
And now that I'm at it, I have a question too. So this is going to show us the firmware, right? But there's also going to be an upgrade to the software.
This is going to show a cross slice of upgrades that is based around the machines themselves.
Mhm.
That's kind of why I wanted to do a disclaimer at first in terms of it focuses on the machines themselves,
Mhm.
but what we are intending to do and intending to recommend to you is an upgrade of our already existing machines, not a purchase of any new devices entirely. But we are statutorily required every time we go through this process to have a competitor shown video. So that's what we'll be seeing first. So Some counties do use the system, so it could be kind of interesting too.
The county surrounding us, Chatham County is the only county that uses HART, which that's the one we're gonna view first.
The three devices you're going to see today, the Verity Scan, the Verity Touch Writer, and our Verity Print, which is our on-demand ballot printing system. So with that, I'm going to escape here, and I am going to attempt to find Sean and team. And can you forecast Sean? There he is. Can everybody see Sean? Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, hey, Tommy, please, or can everyone?
They have some technical difficulties in the recording.
Okay,
These are free.
so yeah, bear with us as we deal with some of these technical difficulties that I'm going to walk you through the setup of the equipment, and then we'll go in depth on each device and show you the functionality of each of those. As Dobby mentioned, it is a small, compact, lightweight solution. Nothing weighs over 30 pounds. It's going to save you in storage space, transport costs, and it's just easy to deliver even in a passenger vehicle if you have to run out any spares or extra devices or extra items. So we're going to show the setup again because this common platform, as soon as you learn how to set up one device, you'll know how to set them all up. And it starts here with our collapsible ballot box. So this weighs about 20 pounds and it collapses down to 6 inches thin. There are instructions right here for the poll workers in the polling location, but it's really, really simple. 4 clasps on snap, and then the box comes apart. There's a floor that gets pushed down in the middle, and then there's 3 bungee cables that keep the top from swinging around, but then the top swings over, completes the box. And you can see here in the front, there's a large open door. We can push the floor down with our feet here, and that completes the box and allows the 5-point locking mechanism to work. So it's a steel locking mechanism with steel reinforced hinges. The door overlaps the inside opening, so there's no way that anything can be slipped into the ballot. It's a very secure box while also being lightweight and transportable. You'll notice inside there is an emergency ballot bag. So this is ripstop nylon that collapses when the boxes collapse. And that just gets any ballots that have to be put in through the emergency ballot bin slot, and it keeps those ballots separate from the ballots that have fallen down below. The other thing you'll notice about the box is the absence of a physical diverter. So all of our write-ins are captured through the software, and they can be printed out on the tape at the end of the day. So there's no need to physically handle or touch any of those ballots after the fact to look at the write-ins and see them. They'll all be printed on the thermal printer tape. Once the box is assembled, the device sits on top, and you'll feel it kind of drop into place. And then right inside the door is where you push the lever back to then lock the device onto the booth, and it's nice and secure in that regard. I did mention there is a spot here when you close the box for a tamper evident seal, and then there's a lock as well. So it's locked and sealed in that regard. For all of the devices, when you open them up, all of the devices, you open them up, set them up in the exact same way. So you'll see that the tablet cradles inside, it goes into its dock and leads back. Your poll workers will have one key here to lock the device into place, and then another key down here with a tamper evident seal can be locked. Your poll workers don't need to have this access to this point. That's where what we call the V drive, which is a USB drive that houses the election information and also all of the results. When a voter votes on this device, their vote is stored in 3 separate locations. We've got the paper ballot, we've got the memory of the device, and then the removable drive as well that we remove after election day or after the election, the polls have closed, bring that into our Verity Count software for tabulation and election reporting. So again, want to reiterate, all of the setup is the same for all of the devices that I'm going to show you. The way you open it up, lock it into place, turn it on. All of the components are shared components. So the power supply, the paper rolls, the keys, everything's universal. So again, learn one, you learn them all. It really streamlines your training and the poll worker experience, which then translates into the voting experience. So right next to the one that we've just set up, I've got a unit ready to go. So we're going to talk about the scanner itself. Each one of your polling places will be required to have one scanner where the voters will fill out their ballot and then insert their ballot into the scanner. So we are talking about a paper-based solution. So voters would get their paper ballot. They would take it to any privacy booth, spend as much time as they need at that privacy booth, marking their selections. And then they bring the ballot to the scanner device. They can insert it in any orientation, face up, face down, footer first, header first. It's duplex scanning. It's going to take about 3 to 4 seconds to read and analyze that ballot, and then drop it down into the box where you'll see the waving American flag. Let's step off the screen for a second just to grab a pen. And I will show you that the device will pick up checks and X's if the voter marks the ballot in that way. But the instructions do say to completely fill in the box. That's the fail-safe method for voters to mark their selections. At this point, because I have put a check and an X in the same contest, the device is going to scan the ballot, but then notice that it has that overvoted contest. Now, one of the things we talked about, the top 5, is that we have the best user experience. That's because we designed our system based on the Design for Democracy principles, which were outlined by the EAC. So that study actually says what is the best method for displaying a ballot on the screen, displaying a paper ballot, and then also for instructional messages to voters and poll workers. Notice that we don't say, contest 3 overvote or something cryptic like that. It is very plain language, easy to understand. Right now it just says governor, too many choices are marked, this contest will not be counted. It's also alerting the voter that they haven't marked on the back side of the page. That's something you can turn on or off to display that for your voters. And the voter at this point has 2 options. They can pull the ballot and spoil it and be issued a new one to correct their mistake, or they always have the ability to cast the ballot as is. It's going to rescan that. This time drop it down into the box, and the waving American flag is displayed, and the voter knows that they've completed the voting process at that point. I'll point out a few other things here. Notice the landing lights, as we call them here, indicating exactly where the ballot is to be inserted. Again, face up, face down, footer first, header first. One other thing that I'll mention is the thermal printer. This is a really easy to use thermal printer. The way that you load it is just make sure that the paper is rolling out from the bottom, and it's called a drop load printer because you just drop the roll in, close the lid, and it's ready to go. So really simple and easy in that regard. Everything is self-contained inside the unit for delivery. Power cable and extra paper roll can fit in this compartment here. Remember, this key block is just to lock the tablet into place. It's not locking that storage compartment. I'll pause here and see if there are any questions I can answer about the Verity Scan device.
This is the point where you can type your questions into the chat section, or if you'd like to raise your hand, I can certainly unmute you and you can ask a question.
One point that
Sean, we have a question about what do you get for write-ins?
So at the end of the day, when the polls close, all of the write-in images, so the actual snapshot of what that voter marked on the ballot, will be printed on the thermal tape, and you'll see every write-in by contest that was captured on this scanner device, as opposed to going through and looking at the individual ballots themselves.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, Sean, I think you can proceed.
One last thing that I'll mention to kind of reiterate what you had mentioned up front, Dobby. This is a brand new system, a brand new scanner. We did not just take new software or new features and bolt them onto old hardware. This scanner was first used in late 2015, really started seeing use across the country in 2016. And we compare that to the competitor scanner, which was both of our competitors introduced their scanners in 2007 and 2009, respectively. So even though you're getting a brand new device, you know, a car with 0 miles on it, you're getting an older model. And we've always had digital scanning. We have a legacy digital scanner that we made in 2005, but we decided it was time to build this brand new scanner so that you've got the most security baked into it and a long lifespan as well.
Sean, we have 2 questions. Does it tally all of the write-ins?
It does, yes.
And then Michael Gray of Durham said that the write-ins will only count if the voter checks the box and not seeing the notation on the write-in space. Is that correct?
That's correct. The system will only count the write-in if the box has been filled in.
Great. Thank you.
So the next device that we're going to talk about is the Verity Touch Writer. This is the accessible ballot marking device for voters with disabilities. Remember, the majority of your voters will probably use a hand-marked paper ballot, but this device is available for anyone who wants to use it, and it prints a full ballot that looks just like every other ballot with the voter selections filled in so that they can then take it to the scanner to complete the voting process. The way this works is a poll worker will bring the voter to the device, and the poll worker is going to hit ready for use. They're going to enter their code. We recommend you use a little bit better code than all ones that we're doing here today. But then the poll worker will activate the ballot, choose that voter's precinct or ballot style, if there are multiple in the location, and then confirm their selections and activate this ballot. Note right now that we do have the ability to mark this as provisional, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in depth here in just a minute. So we're going to activate the ballot. And now this is the point when the poll worker steps away and the voter would continue the process independently of that poll worker. They can use the touchscreen, of course, or navigate through the ballot by turning the move wheel and using the select button. Now, the system has a wide range of displays, audio features. There's multiple languages, of course, that are supported, and the voter will be able to change those settings independently of having a poll worker do that for them. So if this voter needed a large text, large font, high contrast display, the system will walk them through step by step doing that. If the voter is completely blind or visually impaired and is not using the screen at all, there's a point where they can turn the screen off, and all of that will be read to them through the headphones. So the entire ballot would be read through the headphones, and we can adjust the volume and the rate of speed. But if this voter just wants to skip straight to voting, they can press that button right there. You'll see a little bit about your ballot, and then you can now begin voting. It's a simple touchscreen interface. Notice that when I do not make a selection, it says skip. As soon as I've made a selection, it changes colors, indicating that you've made the selections for that contest. To do a write-in, we can touch add a write-in. We'll vote for Abe today and continue forward. We, of course, can skip contests. Here's a proposition with a lot of room for proposition text and even a scroll bar should we need it. And here is an example of a vote for two contest. Notice at the top of the screen, all of those language, screen options, audio options, and help is available for that voter at any time, even though we skipped through it at the beginning. Once we've reached the end of the ballot, the voter will review their choices. You can see the scroll bar here where we can see the choices down below. You can always press the return to ballot button to go back and make changes, or you can touch a specific contest directly make your change if you realize you did not mean to skip that contest, and then review your choices at the end. Once we're happy with our selections, we press print, and we'll say yes, print my ballot. Here is an example of a ballot that I printed up just a minute ago. If the printer has sat, it'll take it a few seconds to warm up, but once it's warmed up, it takes about 10 to 12 seconds to print a ballot. And you can see this ballot looks exactly like every other ballot that a voter who's using pen and paper would get. And then they can take their ballot to the scanner and insert this in the same way that a voter who marked a ballot by hand would do. Any stage.
Sean? Oh, sorry, you're scanning. Go ahead.
And what was there a question, Dottie?
Yes, Sean. The accessible machine prints the entire ballot after selections on demand, or do you insert the blank ballot before making the selections? That's a great question, Carrie. Go ahead, Sean.
Great question. So it is printing from blank ballot stock. Our ballot stock is a non-proprietary ballot stock that you can get anywhere. We'll give you the specifications for the type of paper that you should use. But no, you're just printing onto blank stock, and the entire ballot is being printed. Again, it looks exactly like every other ballot. So the situation that we're trying to combat with the ballot being the same is if you had 100 people come in and vote and only one person used the accessible machine in that polling location, if that ballot was just a summary card, if it had a different look and feel, the voter's privacy has been compromised in that way. You know that exactly how they voted. So our ballots have the same look and feel, the same size, and can't be discerned from any other ballot. So it's a true equality of access in that regard. The other thing that I'll mention that Davi brought up at the beginning is we took the approach of never encoding voter selections into a barcode. So even on our hand-marked paper ballot, there's barcodes on that. Those barcodes contain information like the precinct, the page number, the type of election, just general information like that, but we never encode the voter selections into the barcode. Our competitor's approach is to print out a summary card from the accessible device, and what the voter sees, the selections that they've made that were printed on that card, is not what the system is tabulating. It's actually tabulating a series of barcodes up at the top of that sheet of paper, and the distrust of electronic voting systems just continues in that regard, because the voter cannot verify, because we don't read barcode, that what is being tabulated is actually what they want it to be and the selection that they've made. I do want to be clear, we're not insinuating that our competitor changes votes in barcodes, but this is a public perception issue. And we took the approach to say what the voter sees is what we tabulate across all of our solutions and devices and our system as a whole.
Great, Sean. Deborah Hooker is asking, how does the blind voter record a record voter votes? Sorry.
Yeah,
So you might want to show the headphones and the volume control on that.
right. So the voter who is blind would be able to put on the headphone. The headphones plug into the ATI controller here, right here at the top. It's just standard headphone jack. And then they can even turn off the screen. So the screen would be masked, and everything is happening through the headphones by turning the move wheel. Each turn of the wheel would advance the audio and read a portion of the ballot to the voter. So for example, when they come up on a candidate, it would read the candidate name. If that's the candidate they wish to vote for, they hit the select button. Then it would say, you have now selected, and repeat the candidate name back to them. And then they turn the wheel forward to progress through the remainder of the ballot. Once the ballot is complete, all of their choices will be read back to them. They print the ballot in the same way. A voter who is blind will need to be oriented to where the printer is to grab the ballot. And then they will take the ballot to the scanner device where there are raised ridges, a feed path for that ballot. And again, as Davi mentioned, this is wheelchair accessible for both seeing and responding to the messages that may be on the screen.
Sean, you might want to point out on the ATI that there is Braille as well underneath each of the piece it to, so a voter knows which wheel they're using, wheel or print. It's all in Braille.
Great point, Dottie. And you can see the Braille underneath all of those buttons as well. So,
We
yes,
have- We have another quick question. Oh, sorry, Sean. Did you have another point here?
well, one thing I'll just say is our approach to this was to make it as simple as possible for the voter. You'll notice that there was a help button in the middle. That help button is obviously not a requirement for the voter to navigate through the ballot. So really, this is a 2-button device versus I think there's 11 or 13 buttons on the accessible device of our competitors. So it's just a lot more buttons to learn, a lot more cumbersome. With our approach, it's turn the wheel and hit the button.
Great. We have a question from Sean Pumphrey. How many pages can it use for a ballot with more contests? Can it use legal paper size?
Yes, great questions. We support 8.5 by 11, 8.5 by 14, 8.5 by 17, and 8.5 by 20 inch paper. You can see you may have seen on the ballot that we just printed that it was a 2-column ballot. We can do 2, 3, or 4-column ballots. So the largest size would be a 4-column, 8.5 by 20 ballot, and that's really great for supporting large elections. Now, our intent is to always keep it on one sheet of paper, front and back. But if you have a really big election that needs to span multiple pages, we can support that as well.
Great, Sean. We have another question from Debbie Zink. Debbie wants to know, does the audio read the list of candidates before the visually impaired voter makes their selection, or do they have to back it up to the beginning of those listed?
It reads the names as you turn the wheel over that name. So once you've highlighted that portion, it reads that name, and then you can make your selection. We have a question from Susan, and I'm sorry, Susan, I hope I don't butcher your last name, Chapsky. Can the person voting with the hand device wheel backwards as well as forward? And they would like, I think, to hear all the candidates in a race before would they hear them all before they're selecting one? So the first part of your question, yes, you can turn the wheel forwards and backwards to navigate through. But again, I'll reiterate, it reads the name as you basically roll over or roll through the selection.
Okay, we're coming up on 5 minutes before the end of this, and I know that Sean has one more device to show us, which is print. We might go a little bit over 5 or so minutes since we were letting people in a little bit later, but go ahead, Sean, and I'll let you show the print device.
Sure. So this is the third device, final device that we'll show you during today's session. Again, same suitcase design, same shared components. The way you set it up and get it ready for use is identical as the other. This serves a very different purpose though, and this is an optional item that you can have in your polling location to print ballots on demand as the voter comes in and is checked in and qualified. So what this does is it eliminates the guesswork of how many ballots you need to pre-print, and it eliminates the waste of overprinting ballots and then having to hold those for the retention period before finally discarding them or destroying them. It's really simple the way it works. You can see on the screen it says ready to issue ballots. We are going to issue a ballot. If there's multiple languages, you will choose the language. Again, just like we did on the TouchWriter, you can choose the voter's precinct or ballot style. We can print up to 99 ballots at a time from this. If you wanted to do batch printing, this can be something you have in your office on your desk. It's designed for poll worker use in the polling place, but you can also have one in your office as well. Again, notice the option here to mark this ballot as provisional. I believe that's a differentiator about our system. If you select that you're going to mark that ballot as provisional, the provisional voter will then go and mark their ballot at a voting or a privacy booth, just like everyone else. But the difference is the scanner will not accept the ballot. So even if that voter wasn't intentionally doing it, they just saw other voters going to that scanner, the scanner will reject that ballot and say provisional ballots cannot be scanned. And then you will put it into your envelope and follow that procedure so that you can check up and qualify or dequalify that voter as a provisional voter later down the line. So that's a great check there. So any voter, even if you don't have this device in the polling location, you can use the touch writer to print up a provisional ballot for your provisional voters and ensure that it won't be accidentally scanned and counted. To complete the process, we just say yes, print the ballot. Again, our printer is going to need to warm up, but once it's warmed up and you've got a good flow of voters through the polling place, it takes about 10 to 12 seconds to print a ballot on demand for that voter. The other thing that I'll mention about this system is that once you buy this system from us, you are not, we're not tracking how many ballots that you've printed. There are no click charges or click fees for the ballots that you print. You just are basically buying paper stock and toner. And it's a much more effective, again, efficient and cost-effective way to print ballots for the voters as they come in right in the polling location.
Great, Sean. We have a couple more questions. We have one from Dale, and now they're all piling in, and I'm missing Dale's question. How does it account for and track the number of ballots printed?
Great question. There is a running total at the bottom that shows you the number of ballots printed during this election and for the lifetime. And then also you can at any time print a ballot count report and a ballots issued report right there on the screen. And that will print right here on the thermal printer. So always a visual running total, and you can print reports periodically throughout the day if you needed to know exactly where you were at any snapshot in time, because these will be time and date stamped as well. In this case, it'll be by precinct how many ballots were printed.
Hard to see, Sean. Unfortunately, we have a little lag in the time. We have another question from Carrie Skellington. How would a county account for ballots if they choose not to use the ballot on demand printing device, but have voters use the accessible device which prints ballots on demand?
It would be the same for tracking ballots from the accessible device. There's the same counters and same reports that you can off of that device as well. And if you have pre-printed ballots, you would just track those by the however many you have in a stack or a pad or a shrink wrapped quantity.
I think that we answered Dale's question already on how does it account for the number of ballots printed. I think we've already answered that question. And we also have a last question from Chris Williams. What type of paper does it use? Does it use just regular printing paper? Sean, if you could, we will give you the specs, but Sean will provide you the specs at the moment.
Yeah, so it's a non-proprietary ballot stock. We do sell ballot stock, but you can get it, you can source it anywhere. It's a little bit thicker than standard copy paper. It's 28 pound, 92 brightness, and we recommend short grain paper versus long grain. But yeah, we give you all those specifications, and you can source that wherever it's best for you.
Thank you, Sean.
And there's hard for you. Do we have the lights?
One question I had was about stray marks. You know, what it would do with stray marks.
What it does with stray marks?
Mhm.
Most likely, largely, what ours,
Spit
the
it out.
ESNS does with stray marks. There's stray marks. The way all voting systems basically handle stray marks is based entirely on how it's coded in the jurisdiction. So there's not much variation there in between systems.
Stray marks would be the board decision.
Right.
The vote, it would be y'all's decision of what the voters intend.
It seemed like they had pretty big blocks too.
Pretty big blocks to hit with a pen.
Yeah, and to perhaps leave stray marks on.
That's true. That is true. I don't really want to get into a long-winded comparison between the two of them, because I could go on that forever, but you would be, in my opinion, you would be right about that. Any other questions?
Yes, does it have an emergency energy source?
I believe it does. Yes, they did not. I don't remember if they mentioned that in the video or not, but yeah, I think there's a set of federal standards that come down from the EAC called the VVSG, and if something is in those standards and it's being used in North Carolina and has been certified in North Carolina, then it is able to perform that functionality. And I believe one of those things is having a backup power device.
Okay.
There more questions? All righty, we will move on to ES&S.
Hello everyone, Tucker O'Mell here with ES&S. In this video today, we want to walk you through all of the tabulation and ballot marking devices that we have to offer and show you why they are the most secure, most reliable, and easiest to use products in the market today. The products we're going to take a look at are the DS200 polling place tabulator and the DS300 polling place tabulator, as well as the ExpressVote universal voting device. Those three items are your in-polling place devices that will take care of all of your needs in the polling place. At election headquarters for absentee ballot scanning, we have the DS450 and DS950 high-speed ballot tabulators. Look at those as well. And finally, all the election results come into ElectionWare reporting. It's a brand new software application that allows all the results to be easily uploaded, aggregated, and you can produce a number of helpful reports on election night. So without further ado, let's get started with the DS200 and the DS300. Both of these are polling place ballot tabulators, meaning that the voter has a paper ballot or an ExpressVote ballot card that they mark it, fill out, they have in their hand, and they simply insert it into the unit. There's a slot right here on both the 200 and the 300. I guess I should back up and point out that the 200 is the polling place tabulator currently used in jurisdictions all over the state. But we've also introduced into the market the DS300, which is our next generation polling place tabulator. The good news is if you use the DS200 and your poll workers are used to using this device, they already know how to operate the DS300 because the functionality is almost the same. It's just that this is a new generation of device with additional security measures, VVSG 2.0 compliant, as well as its speed and other items have just been improved, such as the printer is about 5 times faster. And we'll take a look at that a little bit later. Let's go ahead and feed a ballot into the DS200. The voter simply feeds it in any one of the 4 orientations. The tabulator counts the ballot, drops it into the bin, and says, "Thank you for voting." If the voter has a ballot where they have accidentally filled out too many marks for a single contest, look how they've overvoted over here in that first contest, and they accidentally, they make that mistake, they insert it into the DS200. On the screen, it's going to display, you have filled in too many ovals in one contest. For the contest of favorite dog breed, you chose 2 candidates, but you were only allowed 1. Notice that the DS200 is holding onto the ballot. It hasn't counted it. It hasn't dropped it into the bin, but it also has not ejected it out the front of the tabulator for all the world to see. Instead, the voter is empowered in this situation, allowed to make their own choice on what they want to do with their ballot. Would they like to cast it as is, or they like to have the ballot returned to them so that they can spoil it at the voter check-in station and get a new ballot issued to them and try all again. Let's say I want to return that ballot. My original ballot is ejected out the front, and now I can return that back to the booth and spoil it and get a new ballot. Let's say I want to cast it just as is, though, no harm done. Go ahead and insert that ballot. I get the same warning screen, and I simply press the cast button. At that point, the ballot is tabulated and dropped into the bin. I will point out that DS300 operates exactly the same way. Insert a ballot, get instant feedback on whether it was tabulated or if there are additional actions that the voter needs to take. And if it's counted, it's dropped into the secure ballot bin that both devices rest on. Speaking of those ballot bins, let's take a look at them. The DS200 rests on a plastic ballot bin that has two doors. The bottom is the main compartment that houses all counted ballots. They're cast and they end up down here in this bottom bin. And the top bin is for emergency purposes, and we'll talk about that in just a second. You'll notice that there are opportunities for seals, wire seals, and also tape seals, so you can make sure that these doors were not opened at any point during the day. Also, for security, they each have a lock on them, which you'll need a physical key to open. As an option, we also have a blue bin that can rest inside of the main ballot compartment that makes so all the ballots fall in and stack up very nicely. And when it's time to get the ballots out of the machine at the end of the day, it makes it very easy for poll workers simply to shut two doors, lock those two doors, and then the blue box becomes a telescoping handled rolling suitcase to make it easy to transport those ballots back. The top ballot compartment is for emergencies only. Should the DS200 or the DS300 become inoperable on election day, voters can still turn in their ballots in this secure container while we await a new unit to be brought out to the polling place or restore the original unit back to working order. The box works like this. The poll worker inserts their key, opens the auxiliary bin door, and then there is a metal flap that they fold down. That opens a mailbox of sorts, a mailbox slot, so that when the door is shut and relocked, now there's a tiny slit there where voters can insert their ballot into that secure container. Later on, when the DS200 is restored to working order, the poll worker would retrieve those ballots out of the auxiliary bin and feed them through the DS200 at a secure and proper time. The DS300 rests on its own ballot box, which is a little bit different than the DS200 box, but retains many of the same concepts. On the front are still two doors, the first of which allows you to access the ballot compartment of counted ballots, and the top one, which is an auxiliary bin or emergency bin. Still have the opportunity for very secure wired and tape seals, as well as an opportunity to lock the ballot box with a physical key. Opening the polls on the DS200 and the DS300, well, it's a very simple operation. Once the devices are plugged in, simply lift the top lid of the plastic ballot box. Then unlock and lift the lid of the tabulator itself. Now, the tabulator is going to turn itself on automatically. If it is plugged into power, it will start the boot up process without the poll worker having to find a power button. It's kind of like a laptop in that respect. Once the machines are booted up, they will produce a configuration report, which tells you the firmware, the election name, and other details about the data that's loaded on the unit. Next, you'll input your election code and simply press two on-screen buttons to confirm that you want to open the polls. The zero tape automatically prints, and it will print as many copies as you have programmed into the device. Meaning, if you need 3 copies, the 200 or the 300 will automatically print 3 copies for you. Once you've followed these simple steps, the machines are open all day and voters can cast their ballots easily and securely. As ballots are fed, the results are kept on encrypted USB drives that are sealed inside of the device, meaning they're behind a locked door, behind a wired and a tape seal. Now that word encrypted is important because all of the data on here is encrypted and protected from prying eyes. And also, it's important that you understand that none of these devices, the 200, the 300, or anything else you will see in this video is connected to the internet ever. Now these devices, the USB devices, have information about the polling place, and they are inserted into the 200 or the 300, and they remain securely locked inside the device throughout the election day, capturing results. And at the end, when you close the polls, the results are captured on this encrypted device and physically transported back to election headquarters, where they're uploaded into ElectionWare reporting, which we will see later in this video. Speaking of closing the polls, let's dive right in to that procedure, and it's just as easy as opening the polls. The poll worker will need the correct key to unlock the secure door that protects the USB device that is inserted into the machine. Simply insert the key, open the door, and you will see two buttons on the inside. One says power and the other one says close polls. Well, we want to close the polls, so let's go ahead and press that. And on screen, the poll worker gets a confirmation message stating that you have chosen to close the polls. Are you sure you want to do that? And they say yes. They press the red button. I would like to close the polls. Automatically, the results tape begins printing, which summarizes the results for all the ballots cast on election day at that poll site. Once the polls are closed, you have several options for items to bring back to election headquarters. They include the encrypted USB drive from the device, the results tapes that are printed out, as well as the paper ballots themselves. 3 different artifacts that are auditable and comparable against one another that allow you to make sure that your election was run with integrity. One other feature I want to talk to you about the DS300 is that it is revolutionary in its industry, that it has the ability to print on every counted ballot a random serial number that identifies that ballot. It only prints on ballots that have been counted and are going to be dropped into the bin. That's important because anything that isn't counted is going to be returned out the front to the voter. Maybe it was damaged, or maybe they want it back because they overvoted. Those don't have serial numbers printed on them. Only the ballots that are counted have a unique random serial number that identifies that ballot. It drops into the bin, and let's say 100 ballots are counted that day. There are 100 ballots in the ballot box. They all have the serial number on them, so I know they're exactly the ones that were counted. And you have the ability now, because they're all made individual, you have the ability to perform risk limiting audits or any kind of post-election audit, because you have the power of knowing this physical ballot that I'm holding in my hand, I can compare it against the cast vote record that is displayed in the software. We're going to take a look at that a little bit later, but I think that you're going to find this is a very powerful advancement in the election industry. I should also mention that both tabulators have battery backups that will give you 2 to 4 hours of power should you lose AC power to the device. So that's it for the DS200 and the DS300 polling place tabulators. Let's take a look at the ExpressVote universal voting device. All right, moving on to the ExpressVote. The ExpressVote is a universal ballot marking device, meaning that any voter, regardless of their physical capabilities, can use this device to mark their paper ballot privately and independently. Here's how it works. Every voter who's going to use the ExpressVote starts off with a blank thermal card. In just a little bit, when they're all done, this card will become their paper ballot with a printout of their selections on it. Just like this. We'll get there in just a moment, but every voter is given this thermal card. Thermal is important, meaning there is no ink inside of this. There are no print cartridges or ink ribbons that need to be replaced between elections. Instead, it uses thermal technology to print the voter selections on this activation card. Speaking of activation, the voter simply inserts it into the front of the machine with the corner cut on the right. If they accidentally insert it in any other orientation, it will not accept the card, it will not pull it in, and after a few seconds, it will even put on the screen a message saying, providing the voter instructions on how to feed that in. And if they do not have, if they are a blind voter, it will also speak through headphones. It will speak that message to the voter to insert it with the corner cut on the right. So let's go ahead and insert that. And that kicks off a voting session. And let's go ahead and see what that looks like. We designed the ExpressVote to be as intuitive as possible. After the card is inserted into the card insertion slot, an instruction screen is displayed, giving the voter a little bit of information on how to vote properly. In this session, we will be using the touchscreen to vote, and in a little bit, we'll be using the auxiliary Braille keypad to mark a ballot independently as well. But first, the touchscreen. I simply hit Start Voting, and the first screen of contests and candidates is displayed. Notice that you can fit several different contests across several different columns, meaning there are fewer screens for voters to page between. If you have 20 contests, that may fit on 3 or 4 screens, as opposed to 20 separate screens, which would slow down the voting process. I just use my finger or a stylus to make selections in any of the contests. This is a vote for 2, so I selected 2 there. If I change my mind for favorite dog breed, instead of Labrador, if I want to choose Bulldog, simply touch the updated candidate who I want to vote for, and the express vote prevents me from accidentally making too many selections. Such as in this vote for 2, I've already chosen 2. If I choose a third one, it warns me on the screen that I've made too many selections. I need to go back and deselect one of the 2, and then I can make a different second selection. On the right-hand side, we've included a couple of fun propositions, yes and no. Once I'm all done voting, I would hit Review Selections. By the way, if there were more contests to see on a second screen, this would be page 1 of 2, and this button would be Next, taking me to the next screen. But I only have one screen on this election, so let's hit Review Selections. And it's going to bring me to a summary screen, which summarizes my choices. I can confirm that everything is exactly as I wanted. If I want to change my mind, I can touch any contest. It'll take me back to that contest with it highlighted, and I can change my mind and return to the summary screen. And you can see my selection has been updated, and I like my selections, so I will press Print Ballot. One last confirmation saying we are about to print your ballot card. Yes, I would like to print. It is now going to print my card. It will scan the card to make sure that it was printed accurately, and then it will eject it out the front and return it to me as a voter so that I will hold it in my hand. And now that is my paper ballot that I would physically transport to a ballot tabulator such as the DS200 or DS300. In this next section, let's mark a ballot using the auxiliary Braille keypad that is physically attached to the Express Vote. I'm going to bring it closer, but just know that this keypad is connected to the Express Vote via a USB cable, meaning there's no Bluetooth and no Wi-Fi. You will notice that each button is different shaped, different sizes, and also has a Braille description of what each button is. They're also different colors. To navigate through the voting experience using the keypad, simply press any key to get started. An audio cue is being played, and then also on the screen it says assisted voting. To start that voting session, press continue. So we're going to press continue. I could have also done that with the keypad, and now I'm into an assisted voting device mode. Instructions are displayed on the screen. It is also playing these instructions through the headphones. You may ask where are the headphones plugged in. There's a standard 3.5 millimeter headphone plug right here that the voter can insert their own headphones, or the jurisdiction can provide headphones, but simply plug that into the port right here. And the Express Vote is now speaking instructions, candidate names, all of the information a voter would need to privately and independently mark their ballot is being spoken to them through the headphones. Also, down here we have a port for any kind of assistive device that has the 3.5 millimeter plug. This includes if the voter brings in a 2-switch paddle, a sip and puff device, basically anything that can indicate yes or no and has this particular port can be plugged into the Express Vote and can help them navigate. This is if they don't want to use the Braille keypad but have their own device, they can absolutely plug in and navigate through the ballot using that device as well. While I'm down here, let me also talk about these buttons, these light indicators here. This is indicating that the unit is plugged into power, and this indicates battery level. This does have an internal battery, which will give you 2 to 4 hours of operation should you lose AC power from the wall. But let's go ahead and navigate our voting session. I'm going to hit the right arrow to get started. The instructions would have told me that through the headphones. And now I can simply use the down arrow to scroll between candidates. As I scroll, if I were using headphones, I would be hearing the name Beagle, Rescue Dog. If I press the select button, Rescue Dog is now selected, and that would be indicated through the headphones as well. You have selected Rescue Dog. You have fully voted this contest. Press the right arrow, the right forward arrow, to move on to the next contest, which I'll do now. And now I'm on to the next contest. It says, favorite U.S. beach, vote for 1. There are 7 selections. If I hit down, it's going to read the name of each candidate as it's highlighted. I simply press select to select my choice, right arrow to move to the next contest, and so forth. I'm going to quickly navigate through the rest of this ballot session. I arrive at the summary screen. As I navigate with my down arrow, it would be listing off the name of the contest and the name of the candidate or selection that I have made. But if I'm all done, I can simply navigate through the summary screen and I arrive at the print ballot screen. I'm going to hit the right arrow to print my ballot. And it is now speaking through the headphones saying, your ballot is being printed, please wait. It is repeating that over and over so that the voter doesn't believe that the machine is paused or anything like that. And it is now telling me through the headphones that the ballot is being ejected out the front, and I can remove that and I hold it in my hand. Now, if I'm a blind voter and I can't see this ballot, I can't determine if it's been marked correctly, I can insert it right back into the Express Vote, which will scan it and will bring me straight back to the summary screen, detailing exactly how this card was marked. This allows any voter to verify the selections printed on the card before that card is actually taken to a tabulator. I'm on the summary screen. I can listen to or read on the screen the choices that are printed on the card. If everything is correct, I would hit return card and it is returned to me. I was not allowed to make any changes during that session, but I was simply verifying using audio cues or on-screen technology, detailing exactly how this card was printed. And that is a nice verification step that any voter can perform using the Express Vote universal marking device. Now let's talk about delivering the Express Vote to the polling place. It's a very simple process. The Express Vote is transported in this soft-sided transport case that has a over-the-shoulder strap, as well as two Velcro straps that create handles on the top of the device. Zippers along the outside allow you to open the top of the device, and the Express Vote is simply lifted out by a handle that is on the top of the unit. The entire unit weighs about 20 pounds, not too heavy. You can easily carry two of these, one on each shoulder into a polling place. The bag also has a side zipper pocket here where the AC adapter and the power cable go. But other than that, the entire device fits in this one simple carrying case that protects the Express Vote between elections and during transport. Once the Express Vote is removed, obviously it would be off. You simply set it, I lay it down on the table. I get the AC power out, plug it into the wall, and simply plug it into the back of the unit. Lift up the kickstand that holds the device up and simply lift it up. And now it has AC power. Going to the side of the device, you will notice there's a locked door with an opportunity for a wire and a tape seal for security. The poll worker simply unlocks that door and switches the on switch. That boots up the device. It takes about 90 seconds for it to boot up. After that 90 seconds is over, you will input your election code, and then you are open all day. There's very little to do. It's very simple. It's a ballot marking device. It is not capturing any totals. It is just a helpful device that helps any voter mark a ballot independently in the polling site. Now we're all finished with the Express Vote, and we're going to move on to the DS450 and the DS950 central ballot tabulators. And welcome back. The time has come to take a look at central ballot tabulation options. ES&S has two to offer. Today, you'll be seeing the DS450 and the DS950 high-speed ballot tabulators. Both of these devices are proprietary, meaning they were built by ES&S and designed from the ground up to do one thing and one thing only, and that is count your absentee ballots, your mail-in ballots, as quickly and as efficiently as possible. They were also designed to handle folded ballots, damaged ballots, because we all know that those ballots, when they come back in the mail, can be in a variety of conditions. The DS450 handles about 70 ballots per minute, while the DS950 will count about 280 ballots a minute, or just under 5 ballots per second. Obviously, the 950 is going to have a higher throughput, and the 450 was made for medium-sized jurisdictions, those that have maybe a few thousand to count. Whereas if you have several thousand to count, the DS950 is the machine for you. For this part of the video, I'm going to be using the DS950 primarily to show off the functionality. Just know that both devices work basically identically. Any function I perform on the 950 will work exactly the same on the 450, just at a lower rate. So let's go ahead and get started, but the idea here is simple. This is the input hopper. You are going to load up anywhere between 1 and several hundred ballots and put them on this input hopper. On the touchscreen here, you'll hit start, and that hopper will raise into position, and the machine will start counting them one after another at the rate of, again, about 5 ballots per second. And as the ballots travel through this S curve here, at the end, they will be sorted into one of 3 output bins. And you get to decide what those bins do, which ballots go to which bins. The usual setup that our customers use, the most typical, is that the top bin is always outstacks. Anything that is sent to the top bin is always 100% uncounted. Maybe it was a damaged ballot. Maybe it was simply misread. Maybe it's from a different election. We've seen those. Maybe it was damaged beyond the ability for the machine to scan it. Anything that it has trouble with, it doesn't guess. It simply outstacks it here, and you are guaranteed that anything that's up there has not been counted during that run. The bottom 2 bins, the middle of which, the top of the bottom 2 bins, the middle bin, let's just stay with the middle bin, is primarily for your write-in ballots. A lot of counties and jurisdictions say that anytime there's a write-in on ballot, I want you to count the whole ballot in its entirety, every contest, but I want to send those ballots to the middle bin to separate them if I need to take a look at them later. Finally, the bottom bin is where all of the other regularly counted ballots, anything that doesn't have a write-in or anything of that nature, if the ballot is counted, it is counted 100% in its entirety, and it is delivered down to this bottom bin. That's why the bottom bin is a little bit bigger. It can hold about 380 ballots because the majority of your ballots are going to be counted no problem and delivered down here. Now, I won't walk you through all the different things that ES&S has learned over its 40 years of experience in central ballot tabulation, but just know we have put all of that prior knowledge into these devices, where the ballots are inserted in the machine and where the ballots are ejected into the output hoppers here. Those are your trouble areas. And ES&S has learned over those 4 decades exactly how to handle paper moving at a rapid speed to avoid jams, to avoid collisions, to handle folded ballots. And we're going to demonstrate that to you here in a little bit. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Here we are with the DS950. We're about to run some ballots. I've gathered a stack of about 90 ballots here that could have been your mail-in ballots. The idea here is that you load them up on the input hopper, and up here on the scanning screen, you'll see a green button for start. I'm simply going to press start, and away we go. All right, now that we're all done scanning here, the screen is telling me that I have 4 ballots in the top bin, I have 3 ballots in the middle bin, and 84 in the bottom bin, meaning 84 were counted, 3 more were counted but have write-ins, and 4 have been outstacked for a variety of reasons. These 84 on the bottom, these are completely counted and can be put into your counted box. So we'll put that over there in your counted box. The middle bin here, these have write-ins. You can notice here that, for example, right there, somebody wrote in pug as their favorite dog breed. So those would also go in my counted bin. And these 4 were outstacked. I have told the system that I want to outstack overvoted ballots. So, for example, you can see on this particular one, somebody overvoted and chose too many choices there for favorite dog breed. And also, to show the power of the system, look at this one. On the favorite dog breed, they voted for 2 by simply placing simple X's in the oval target area. The system is powerful enough to see that. We have patented scanning algorithms that look for check marks, X's, and lines through the target area. It has learned to ignore rest marks where maybe a voter goes down the list and says, no, 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 and puts a little dot of ink in areas. Our system knows that it needs to ignore those, but also look for those other different situations, those alternative situations, such as the check mark and the X. Voters do it, so we need to be aware of it and we need to look for it. And now let's talk about real world situations, real world ballots, because we know that every one of us has seen something like this come back in the mail, right? Ballots come back in a variety of conditions. And this could be a real world situation where this very damaged ballot and wrinkled, maybe they spilled coffee on it or something, comes back to you and the machine is expected to count. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to stick it right in the middle of the batch there. Let's say that damaged ballot gets in there. What we want to do is we want to avoid jams. And the DS950 has been designed from the ground up with a variety of powerful rollers throughout the S-curve that pulls the ballot tight and helps eliminate the opportunity for jams, including when a ballot like this one makes its way into your stack. I'm going to hit the start button and let's see what happens. That damaged ballot is about 2/3 of the way down and it's coming up pretty soon. I'll let you know when it's coming up. Here it comes. You'll notice in the output hopper, it handled it no problem because the DS950 is designed. We've even run examinations where we've had an entire stack of those kinds of ballots, and the DS950, again, is designed to handle that. Things like if the output tray identifies ballots are crumpled up and taking up too much vertical space, the DS950 notices that, and that tray drops to make more space for ballots coming in. In other words, it adjusts itself while scanning so that you don't have to worry about a train wreck of collisions of ballots. We're really proud of this device. We're proud of the speed, we're proud of the efficiency, and we really hope that you'll take advantage of the power that is the DS950 and the DS450. And now let's take a look at software options. If you are a jurisdiction that uses Hardware Programming Manager, or HPM, to create your own media, or if you use ERM, which is Election Reporting Manager, to upload results and print results reports on election night, those applications are being replaced by one program known as Electionware. This is in the newest certified release in the state. If you are upgrading to that newest release, you will be using Electionware for both those activities rather than HPM or ERM. To create your own election media in Electionware, you'll go to the package module over here on the left, and all of the different polling places that you can create media for are listed right here in this vertical window. I am going to simply insert a USB drive into my computer and then right click on any polling place that you'd like to create election media for. It locates the name of the drive. Simply click Create Media. It will write the data for that polling place. It will encrypt the data and it will digitally sign the data. So a couple layers of security on each individual stick. And then it tells you, gives you a successful message saying that this media has been created. Click OK. Now I can remove that and insert another USB drive. Right click on the second polling place. Say yes, I would like to create that poll. Once that second media has been inserted, select Create Media. Again, it formats the device, writes the data for the polling place, encrypts and digitally signs, and gives you a successful message saying that that media has been created. Simply follow these steps for all of your polling places in order to get all of your election media created. Okay, moving on to election night. Previously, you would have used ERM to upload all of your results and produce election reports. Instead, now you will be using Electionware's reporting module. Inside of Electionware reporting, go to Load Results and to get results off of the USB drives as they've been delivered to your election headquarters, click the Start Load button. It looks like nothing happened, but your computer is now scanning its USB ports in real time. As USB drives arrive back to HQ, insert them into your computer's USB slot. I have 5 sticks to work my way through here. As I insert the first one, notice that the entire stick was processed, results came in, and that is it. I didn't have to do anything else but just insert the stick. I've removed that first stick, and now I'm putting in a second USB drive. Again, notice how it is automatically processed. I am going to now just work my way through the 5 that I have in total. As I work, notice how this column here for reporting group is automatically completed. What that means is that the USB drives, when they are sent out to your polling places, they already know which reporting group that USB drive belongs to. And so when that USB drive is delivered back to you, you no longer have to choose which reporting group these results belong to, because the stick already knows. On election night, we've made it as easy as possibly could be. Simply click one button, this Start Load button up here, and start inserting drives. If the USB drives are from this election with the polls closed, the results are automatically uploaded. Now let's look at election reports. Those are underneath this section here called election results. Down below, we have 3 different options for you: election summary reports, precinct by precinct reports, as well as canvas reports. In this system, they're called custom table reports. If I edit the election summary report, several options are displayed on the screen. Many of this terminology comes directly from ERM, meaning if you have the ability to create reports in ERM and already know what those options are, you will certainly know what these options are here inside of Electionware reporting. I will print this one on here, show total votes cast, and perhaps I want to see candidate percentages. I'm just setting a few of the options here. Save those options and click on View Report, and the report is displayed in front of you. It is page by page. The first page is always statistics. Click the right arrow to go to page 2, and you start to see the contests themselves. I'm scrolling down here. Total votes for each candidate, percentage of votes that each candidate received, as well as the results breakdown by the 3 different reporting groups off here to the right. Everything I've just talked about, those are all options in this report. You can turn them on or off to your heart's delight. A precinct report looks very similar, except for these are results broken down by individual precincts. You'll notice here precinct 1, precinct 2. Again, the concepts here are very similar to ERM. It's just in a newer, brighter, easier to use interface. And custom table report, this is a wholesale replacement for all of the various ERM Canvas reports. And I think you're going to find a lot of the new options there very helpful as well. Anytime you have a report that you want to get off the system, you can print to your local printer, your local laser printer, or you can click this icon right here, this disk icon, and save the report in 5 different formats, which are PDF, rich text, HTML, Microsoft Excel, and comma delimited, or a CSV file. Lots of different options to get these beautiful reports off the system. The third major action you can take inside of Electionware reporting is going to ballot review. This is where you can view all of the ballot images captured by your ES&S, precinct, and central count tabulators. I will click on this top button here, which is basically telling the system, I would like to look at all of the ballot images for my entire election. All of them are displayed right here in a table. At least the details about each image is displayed in this table. Right click at the very top and say View All Ballots. The system says this is the first of 109 ballots to view. As I zoom in here, you can see exactly how the candidate voted. You can see how they filled in the oval right here. I'm going to zoom out a bit. I can see the back of the ballot by clicking this button. Go back to the front. Now, looking at the images is great, But what can I do with that information? How can I really validate that my election was run with integrity? Well, simply click this cast vote record button up here and a report will open up. This is the cast vote record for this ballot image. The cast vote record is a unique report that summarizes exactly how this particular ballot was tabulated. And looking at the ballot image, I can see that this is a vote for Les Ismore, Noah Guy, and Hugo Ahead. And in the cast vote record, I can verify that this ballot was tabulated exactly as marked. If I go to the second ballot in the election, I notice the vote for Pete, Noah, and Sue. When I view the cast vote record, I notice that it is a vote, they are votes for Pete, Noah, and Sue. In this respect, you can verify the integrity of your election and also benefit from the additional transparency that ES&S has added to this new system. The fourth major action you can take in electionware reporting is write-in review. Handling write-ins and accounting for all the write-in totals is a time-consuming process for election officials. In this new release by ES&S, you can handle all of your write-ins digitally right here in the software without ever having to touch any of your paper ballots. Go to write-in review, and we like to do this one contest at a time, so I will say I'm about to handle my write-ins for president. All 13 write-ins for the presidential contest are displayed in front of me. This is the actual handwriting, the voter's handwriting from the ballot. As you hover over each one of them, you get a nice blown up view. I notice I have some votes for a candidate named Cash In Carry. Next to any one of those cash and carries, I can assign that vote to a write-in candidate named Cash In Carry. However, I don't have that candidate created yet in the database. So I choose add a new name. I type in Cash In Carry. And now Cash In Carry, the write-in candidate, has a vote. There are other cash and carries inside of this particular contest. So I am going to now use a different feature, a different function, which is bulk edit, where I can assign a bunch of cash and carries at the same time by clicking on this checkbox over here next to every single instance of that candidate that I see, selecting bulk edit. The system says you've highlighted 4 write-in votes. Who do they belong to? Well, they belong to Cash In Carry. As I save that, you will notice all of those have been updated to reflect those new totals. Sort that column. Those assigned votes are down at the bottom, and now I have the remaining left up at the top. I see a candidate named You'll Be Sorry. I'm going to add a new name. You'll Be Sorry. There he is. And then all the other You'll Be Sorries, again, just click next to every instance you see of that particular candidate. I think I see 3 of them. Bulk edit. Those 3 belong to You'll Be Sorry. Click Save. Those are all assigned. And there you go. Sort the column a couple of times, and I'm left with these up here. Looks like I missed a cash and carry. No harm done. Just assign it right there with the pull down. Hopefully you get the idea of how this works here. You view the image of the write-in over here, and you simply assign to a write-in candidate on the right-hand column. If you return back to election results, which is the part of the module where you can produce election reports, if I edit the election summary, which is my grand totals report, and tell it, I would like for you now to include write-in names, let's look at what the report looks like now. If I go to the presidential contest and zoom in a little bit, you'll notice there were 13 write-ins for the presidential contest. 6 were assigned to Cash and Carry, 4 to You'll Be Sorry, and 3 remain unassigned. You are handling all of the write-ins in the system digitally while your paper ballots are still locked away at Election HQ safe and sound. That is a simple walkthrough of the Electionware features that we have for you today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, please contact your ES&S or PrintElect representative, and we'd be happy to answer any of those questions. Thanks again for watching.
All right. Got through both of them. But as I was watching that, I remembered a better way to answer your question from before. you were asking if it was a software or a firmware upgrade. Software and firmware are both code. They're both things that are saved on the device.
Mhm.
The upgrade we are looking to do will upgrade both, but we are not upgrading hardware, which is physical things that exist in the world, as of our recommendation. The DS300 that they showed obviously functions exactly like the 200 does. But we aren't looking to purchase that. It would be a massive purchase if we were looking to do that. The other thing is with the DS950, we have the 850.
Yeah.
Some upgrades, parts of this upgrade that were described there would apply to our machine when it is upgraded. Some of them would not.
So what we were, having been through the recount, multiple recounts, we know that there was a lot of jamming that was occurring. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, wouldn't it be really great if it really would take a folded paper and not like fold every other paper that's running on that recount section, the time that we spent. But I don't think is that something that we can anticipate being improved?
The improvement will come from our ability to not have to rerun another stack. The hardware changes that happen to the 950 with the path itself, the way they've shaped it, the way they detect where the cameras are, that is all unique to that particular device. That particular device is extremely expensive.
Ours doesn't separate it like that. It shoots the ones that are tangled up to the top tray though, right?
Yes, and actually, not lead to misunderstanding, if he had run a whole stack that looked like the ones he was crumpled up, eventually it would have messed up, and the functionality there is the same as ours in that it would pop it to the top, and we would have to, depending on how damaged it is, do a duplication. So that's the other thing with the 950. I want to point out the Express Vote in particular, because the way that he described the Express Vote on there is exactly with the changes that would be on ours. So instead of it being in a large presidential election, 50 something pages that you have to next through, you will see a reasonable amount of contests at a time. So if you get to the end of a 50 something page ballot, you almost don't even remember what you were doing at the beginning of depending on how your head works. But that is a nice extra feature too.
The Express Vote now with the upgrade is supposed to resemble the actual ballot, paper ballot. And that is what you view on the Express Vote is basically what someone that just had the paper ballot would see.
Right.
Where before the upgrade, like you said, you get one contest, you get next, for every contest.
And they did that originally for accessibility purposes, ADA, but notably, this by default displays it like an actual ballot, but still gives you the option to switch to large print, to only see one at a time, if that's necessary for you, if you have issues seeing smaller print. I think that is the largest upgrade and benefit for us is going to be the last portion, which kind of may have gone over people's heads, but it mainly applies to me. But it is their reporting structure. The way their reporting software is structured is night and day between this version and the version we currently have. It's far more streamlined.
So in general, two things. The security will be updated. I mean,
yes, he didn't mention any of that in the video. I covered our last meeting, which is still recorded for the purposes of the public online. I went into more detail about that, but just briefly, it upgrades everything about the encryption. It upgrades the operating system. It adds in extra features in numerous areas for security.
And it increases the processing speed.
And there is an increase in processing speed,
All of
which
those
is crucial.
will help us in meeting the new law.
Yes, all of those will be essential in meeting new requirements.
So if the board resolves for us to request the purchase of this upgrade, that would not be for this year's budget, it would be for the next year's budget.
Fiscal, beginning July 1st.
Okay. So that would be fiscal year 2026.
Between 25, 26.
And so what exactly, I know it's the electionware software.
I'll give the large points. There will be an upgrade to the software and firmware of the DS200s, which are the tabulation devices. There will be an upgrade to the Express Vote ballot marking devices, which are the ADA screen that's just a print. There will be an upgrade to the DS850, which is our central count tabulator for absentee by mail ballots. And there will be an upgrade to the main reporting system, which combines everything together and makes it a smooth, streamlined process.
So, if we resolve to request this upgrade, do we, at this meeting, do we want to state that we want to resolve to request the county to purchase that upgrade? And then you all will write that resolution specific to what we're requesting, or?
I do have the resolution to preliminary recommend to the Board of Commissioners the adoption and acquisition of the voting system. So there, that would be what y'all would sign today.
Okay.
We would have to test in one of our precincts in the November election, which is listed in that resolution. We will test the new system in one of the precincts. After the testing of the upgrade, then that's when you would vote to actually acquire this.
Okay.
Also, I do want to point out, because this is just an upgrade and we're not actually purchasing voting equipment. When they do our preventive maintenance, as long as we do the upgrade in the preventive maintenance, there is no there's no labor fee for that. That's included in the preventive maintenance. And they will do the preventive maintenance early. They would do it in January or February prior to the March primary in 2026.
Okay. So,
that's the total cost.
yeah, so if it's okay with you, I'm just going to run through this one.
Perfect.
Okay, so this is our resolution to preliminarily recommend to the Alamance County Board of Commissioners. And I forgot to mention, thank you, Steve Carter, for attending this meeting.
You're
It's really
welcome.
important that you were here. For the adoption and acquisition of the voting system. Whereas the Alamance County Board of Commissioners, with the approval of the Alamance County Board of Elections, may adopt and acquire only a voting system of a type, make, and model certified by the state board for use in some or all voting places in the county at some or all elections in accordance with the law. Whereas the Alamance County Board of Elections must recommend the adoption and acquisition of any voting system by the Alamance County Board of Commissioners after completing the requirements in the law. I'm just doing that for the sake of speed. Whereas the Alamance County Board of Elections must recommend to the Alamance County Board of Commissioners which type of voting system should be acquired by the county. Whereas the Alamance County Board of Elections has witnessed a demonstration in the county or a site designated by the State Board of Elections of the type of voting system being recommended, and has also witnessed a demonstration of at least one other type of voting system certified by the State Board of Elections as required. Whereas the Alamance County Board of Elections has directed staff to test during the November 4th, 2025 municipal elections the proposed voting system in at least one precinct in Alamance County. Whereas the Alamance County Board of Elections will seek approval from the State Board of Elections prior to replacing any voting system. Whereas the Alamance County Board of Elections will request funds from the county to fund the purchase of new voting equipment. And whereas the Alamance County Board of Elections plans to make a final recommendation to the Alamance County Board of Commissions on the adoption and acquisition of a voting system at its Thursday, November 20th meeting. Therefore, be it resolved that we, the Alamance County Board of Elections, hereby preliminarily recommends that the Alamance County Board of Commissioners adopt and acquire the following certified voting equipment. And that is the equipment that we saw, the DS200. Well, that's the voting type. The vendor is ES&S, 60 units, cost per unit, $170, shipping and handling, $500, with no additional cost for installation if installed during preventative maintenance. The cost to the county would be $10,700. Then for the standalone system, the vendor ES&S, the workstation, $2,268, miscellaneous components, $685, equipment installation, $1,540, shipping and handling, $343. Cost to the county for that would be $4,836. And for the express vote printers, vendor is ES&S, 30 units, cost per unit $800. Cost of that software is $4,900. And the implementation services will be $2,050, and that would involve tabulation software training, 1 year of hardware and software warranty, and shipping and handling. The total cost of the county that we're recommending, well, the cost to the county for that would be $30,950. So the total cost of the county for this upgrade would be $46,486.
And that was included in our recommended budget.
So, do I hear a motion to approve this resolution going forward?
I have a few questions.
Okay. Thank you, Homer.
We have now DS 850,
Mhm.
and during some of the recounts, there were some mechanical problems with DS 850. Would they be addressed with any of this, or is that something that
Our ability to handle the issues would be addressed. The structural issues with the machine that leads to it not being able to tabulate folded ballots very well is only addressed with the addition of the DS 950.
so are the challenges that we had with DS 850 going to be more than we would want to have to deal with if we didn't get a DS 950?
That would be difficult for me to determine in and of myself, given the cost of the machine. The cost of acquiring a DS 950 would be nearly double what we just said for one machine. That
And
machine
that's
alone.
with the trade-in of both
Yes.
of our 850.
And that is counting trading in our current ones.
Mhm.
So it does seem a bit disproportionate, but it is. If were we to add a DS 950, it would run the cost up to
Over 100.
Over 100.
yeah over 150.
So I have a follow-up question to that. That was during a major election.
Right.
And we had multiple recounts. So for the near future, we will not be handling that amount of ballots.
Right.
So I hate to say it, but that might be something that we eventually have to address. But now this is some upgrades are basically required because of the new laws. Is that correct?
Well, this upgrade is not required. It is recommended because of
Time issue.
because of time, and partly we would not encounter issues like we encountered with this, with
Reporting.
right, with reporting election night. This would, Judson could go more into detail about that, how it would.
I could go into quite a bit of detail, but it is night and day reporting wise between what we have now and what there is there. There have been 3 generations of voting equipment in the past 10 years for ES&S. You had M100s and direct. There was a period where there was a direct recording system, which is now outlawed. That system ran on a certain version of reporting software. That version of reporting software carried over to be used with the next generation, which is what we have currently. But when we purchased it, we moved up to a different, newer generation of software that almost works as a bridge between 2 generations. So what this is really doing in terms of the reporting software is getting rid of all of the non-functional components that correspond to the old reporting system and moving fully into the new generation where everything is streamlined in one application.
And additionally, okay, what, as far as reporting on election night, where we had the issue with early voting totals, and then uploading because of one of the early voting sites, would you not be able to upload, go ahead and report everything else?
Yes.
And when that one is corrected, then that would, that only one would be, that would be what would be delayed in reporting.
So it would have said it would have said 90, all
precinct,
38 precincts have
what was
reported.
early.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah,
the
that's true.
majority of the votes,
Mhm.
it wouldn't let him upload any of them.
Right.
Whereas with this upgrade,
He would have been able
we
to.
had 5 sites. He could have uploaded 4 sites, and that one site, once it was corrected, could have been uploaded.
I think a good way to sum it up would be that moving to this new streamlined reporting process vastly improves our ability to address any unforeseeable situations. If there is something that crops up at the last moment, with our current system, we are at times locked into uploading things to the state in a certain way because the results are very heavily coupled together in terms of transfer to the state. This system will allow us to break that down a bit more such that we can not have results that are in the correct precincts be prevented from being uploaded by a small subset of results that have been erroneously put in the wrong jurisdiction by poll workers. And on top of that,
Yes.
we have the express vote printers now, which take the responsibility of assigning jurisdiction to a voter at early voting and put that responsibility on the system rather than on a person.
Mhm.
It would be, once you check in, again, with the printers, it will automatically print that on the baby ballot. And then that's inserted, it automatically loads that precinct where the poll worker, we're not relying on them to,
Right.
enter the correct.
Steve has a question.
Steve has a question.
I do. Well, kind of a comment and a question. I think you probably going to get some support from us. We were, as y'all may remember, in our budget hearing sessions, there was a lot of energy around that faux pas we had last year. We don't want to see that again.
So that in itself would have been totally prevented if this had happened.
Yes, that situation would have been able to be addressed in a quarter of the time. With this group.
I'm only one vote, and I can't tell you how things might turn out. If y'all paid any attention to last night, you have some idea what it was like. But I can tell you, I don't think any of the five of us want to see that happen again. So if you think there's something that needs to be done, I would say at least raise your hand and tell us about it. And let's see what happens.
Thank you, Steve.
I have another question.
Okay.
Is the state recommending, that is the state board of election, are they recommending any particular system or upgrade?
Well, they're not, they're not forcing any counties to upgrade. These are out there, and it's up to the counties to make the determination that they would like to upgrade their voting system or not. It's they can't, 'cause there's no grants there or anything like that for them to, like when we went to all paper ballots, that was required. This is not required. Recommended, it's not required. Right.
Well, I'd like to speak positively to the resolution. One, because it will avoid the problems that we had with the last election. And then the second thing is that with the ESS system, it's a system and product that we have been working with. And so the transition with the new upgrades would be easier rather than bringing a whole new system.
Right.
And far less costly.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
because we have the majority of what we need.
Just for curiosity's sake, we listened to this DS300 component, and the only really discernible difference to me, and there's probably a vastly discernible difference to you,
Not from what he said.
was, hey, this will be a couple minutes faster and we can print serial numbers.
Yes, that is correct. He did not mention any of the security upgrades. The security upgrades are crucial from a technical perspective because that system was designed roughly around 2016 and it was using old operating system, old software, everything. So it's a fairly standard upgrade. It can't really, I don't want to speak to the state board's ability to recommend things and not recommend things, but it's likely that they cannot recommend or force these fairly standard in any other area upgrades software wise due to the cost that is usually associated with them. Smaller counties may not have the ability to do that, but it is from a technical perspective a no-brainer in terms of security of the system. If you had your computers that you're using for your office and there were critical security upgrades that were required for them, they would do that immediately.
Yeah.
Because it's elections and it's a voting system and it handles votes and there's hoops you have to jump through for certification. That process works a bit slower, but it doesn't necessarily change the fact that it's necessary.
Madam Chair, I recommend that we adopt this resolution.
Do we hear a second? All in favor? So, moving along, we also have some legislative updates.
That's correct. I was just going to kind of run over them quickly. I will say that Representative Rydell telephoned yesterday about some of the new laws that have went into effect, and one of them he asked, was there anything that he could say, bring to the legislation that would help us? Because I basically told him in a presidential election like we just had, where they're giving us now 2.5 days to research provisionals and determine present those to y'all on Friday right after the election. I said, that's impossible. In all the counties we've talked, that's impossible if in an election as large as we just had, with as many provisionals as we just had. So he he said, what would help? I said, well, if we had the weekend, they at least extend it till Monday. That's still pushing it with all the research we have to do, all the data entry. Now, the law, the state board requires is anybody that works on their system, like the voter registration system, provisional, any data entry done, I have to have background checks done, and I'm talking fingerprinted and those type with the SBI to work on that system. So we can't just bring anybody in here and say, hey, can you data entry? We need you to enter this. They have to go, have to have a background check done prior to that. So that's harder to get extra help during election. Luckily, everybody that helped us in the past has all agreed to have that done, but that's still in a big election like this. I had to get the county manager, I had to, we need help. We need extra data entry workers. And with this, it would be, we're going to have to round the clock. We will be working literally around the clock. I told them my budget, in the budget department, I said, in the bigger elections in the future, I don't foresee that in November, but we'll need, and we're going to need, we're going to have to sleep here. And, we're going to need, and they did tell us that the rescue, EMS has like portable showers and things like that. In reality, we're going to have to do that to get it done. And and then I told him, I said, another suggestion I made was moving back, how we could not run the early voting totals now till 7:30. Well, that takes several hours. I said, y'all change that to 7:30. I said, from 2:00 on election day. I said, if y'all can move that back to 2:00 on election day, that would, those totals could go out at 7:30. What happened would have been called earlier that day. But we couldn't even.
That's another thing, Steve, is that with this new law that they put in, how we used to be able to get the early voting results so early?
They were out at 7:30.
Yeah.
Right.
So this, can you explain to him why that's going to be impacted?
The state, the legislation changed the law where early voting totals, the board could not start.
Is this state or federal?
State. Could not start running the early voting machines to get the totals until after the polls had closed at 7:30. So normally where those are uploaded at 7:30, this past in November, they couldn't even start running the early voting totals, which takes 2 to 3 hours in this type of
those machines have very little processing power on board. It takes an hour and a half to get them closed and get results.
And so that was another reason, that besides the totals, the results being late, if they could have ran them at 2:00, like we have in every other election, when he tried to transmit it to the state, he would have caught that then. And that possibly could have been fixed before 7:30.
How long? Well, it was about 2.5 to 3 hours of turnaround it took to fix that problem. If that happened at 2:00 in the afternoon, it would have been done long before.
Right. So I did mention that to him.
That's a big.
I said, where now we cannot even start tabulating early voting totals until 7:30. I said, if you could talk to them about changing that back to 2:00. I said in another law that's changed. Yes, sir.
Have you shared that with our legislative delegation?
We have what we call a North Carolina.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have the same thing. Yeah.
Right. And we have, yes, that has been statements have went out to them. Yes, it went out immediately. The directors, the different counties got together. And another thing I did tell him, I said, I'm not now we have to count all of the absentee ballots that come in on up till 7:30. They have up till 7:30 on election day for absentee ballots. They have to be counted. And on election day. We can't, where before, if they came in on election day, we would have a special, meeting to run those ballots prior to canvass. We can't do that now. They have to be, ran on election day and the totals released on election day. Okay. So that I said, I'm not so much worried. I don't think that most of the, absentee by mail totals, I'm more worried about the early voting. We had 70%, over 70% vote early. Okay.
That's pretty
And-
normal for us.
Exactly. And in every election, it only increases. Unless we have another pandemic, I don't foresee the absentee by mail totals really changing an election, results of a.
So that's kind of in the hands of the legislature. To amend that. I think they thought that it was a good idea, but election boards around the state, no, it's a virtual impossibility to meet those requirements and get the results out like they have been in the past. So
There used to be, even before Judson was here, you could close them things out Saturday afternoon.
Yes, we
Yeah.
used to do
It
that.
used to be even earlier.
We shut them down and printed the things out. We were done and data was ready. All we had to do was load it in the computer software.
Yeah.
Then they went to the 2:00 thing.
Mhm.
That was okay. We could still manage that. But then they cut that out and went to 7:30, and that just kills you.
Yeah.
You're just dead in the water with that one.
That was this past in 2024. That's the first time we had to do that.
So,
So,
but it's good that they came and that he asked, because that's the only way it's going to change is for the legislators to do it. So it's in their hands. Is that all for the update?
well, and we just, had I was just they're still out there, a couple bills to reduce early voting from, it would be just 1 week of early voting through Saturday, Monday through Saturday, only in municipal and primaries like in November for the presidential and this coming up fall election, they would still be would be the 13 days plus whatever weekends the board chooses to hold that.
So is that something that is going to happen or something that's been proposed?
It's been proposed and it is out there. It's actually been recommended to the Committee on Rules and Calendar and Operations of the House. That's where it's sitting right now.
So then you have different early voting schedules for different elections?
For different election types, that's correct. That's actually under House Bill 66 and House. Is that, House Bill 411 is to reduce the early voting period. And then, that's probably the two, that was the legislation updates I really wanted to bring before y'all at this time.
Okay. I have one piece of business, and it's sad but happy. The board would like to recognize Noah Reed, who served on the board from 2018 to 2025. So I think this is well deserved.
Thank you.
You've been great. You've been the conscience and the voice for us. My 2 years, and I know well before, because I was chair of the party when, or getting ready to be chair of the party when you got on the board. So very well deserved.
Thank you very much for this. And I mean, it's just one of the highlights of my life has been these 8 years of service here. So each and every one of you, I've seen great dedication and a true concern for the voters, which we all share. thank you very much, and y'all continue on with the good work, because I'm sure you will.
We will try to do as good a job as you've done, over the past year. Thank you.
There was one thing I did want to explain maybe to the public that, just so y'all would, when we're talking about, the 950 counting ballots, okay, we had the DS200s at our, polling sites, the early voting sites. They count the early voters and precincts, election day ballots. What that does is that counts, we don't run them again, okay? We have the 850, not the 950 or the 450. We have the 850. That counts the mail-in ballots and provisional ballots. That's what that's used for. Just so I didn't want you to think, the way the ballots were ran, then we have to rerun them again. We don't. Only in recounts.
Yeah, we had,
Yes.
a few recounts. This time.
I just wanted to explain that.
Speaking of the recount issue, do we know if there's going to be perhaps more pressure on the state board to put out current lists in a timely pre-canvass fashion?
Of the voters that don't have the correct information. They
Like
have,
the list maintenance is not put out on time, if you will, by the state board.
Are you talking about with the deceased?
Yeah.
etc.?
oh, okay,
people
that
who
is
were
now
gonna
done on the,
be-
right. That is weekly. We process those weekly. Even during elections, we will process those, where that directives wasn't really, this past elections, they did not specify exactly, it's like this was the cutoff, but on these, deaths and felons, you're to continue to researching those through, election day. They, now it is, they have made us directives, and it is through, we would just continue every week. We won't stop with that. So if someone votes prior to election day and they pass away prior to election day, if they vote early, vote this week, pass away the next day, then we'll have to we'll have to challenge that ballot and to retrieve.
But if they manage to, if they get that vote in on election day, it still counts.
Right.
So,
I just know they had not really
well,
given y'all information that you needed for the list maintenance, so maybe have avoided a lot of those issues that were dredged up.
They're putting it out there every week now.
Okay.
And we print those lists off, and whatever, if it's duplicate voters, if it's the death list, if it's felons, whatever the list is, we process those every week. Either remove the voters, send them a letter, whichever is required for that particular list. We follow those directives every week.
Okay. Super.
And one other thing I will tell you about the protest, the voters that don't have the information on their, the North Carolina driver's license number or the last 4 digits of their social. They are, the state will be giving us more directive on that. They've talked about what directives they're going to tell us in the future to be doing. So it's not just lost in the wayside. That will still be addressed in the future.
okay. If there's no other business, we need to move to closed session, and then we'll come back before we adjourn. Come back to open session. So I guess the public will have to leave for this short one.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to join you guys today. I appreciate
We appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Enjoyed watching the presentation up there.
Thanks for being here.
And if you want to speak,